The gospel text of today is taken from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 10, verses 25 to 37, and contains one of Jesus' more popular parables, known as the parable of the Good Samaritan. The regular and usual meaning of this parable is taken to mean that one must help one's neighbor in need. And the neighbor in need is the poor, is the downtrodden, is the marginalized, the one on the streets, the one who has been robbed of all dignity and left for half dead. A deeper reading, however, will make us realize that that is surely one part of the parable, but really a very small part of the parable. If we look at the question that the lawyer asks Jesus, it is, who is my neighbor? The answer to this question would have been, your neighbor is the one who is fallen among robbers, the one in need of your help. That would have been the answer. However, after Jesus tells the parable, he makes the question of the lawyer stand on its head. He turns it around when Jesus asks, who was neighbor to the one who fell among robbers? In other words, the neighbor is the one who reached out, not the one in need. And so the parable begins by telling us about two religious figures who were expected to help. The priest sees the man, and possibly because he thought it might be a corpse, and so did not want to be defiled before he offered sacrifice, he did not even go, he crossed by to the other side to avoid defilement. The Levite behaved in a similar manner, saw that the man needed help, and walked by on the other side. It is likely that both the priest and the Levite may have thought that the man was dead, and so there was nothing they could do. They may even have thought that if they went and tried to attend to the corpse, they would have been defiled. The fact, however, is that they did not go to the man. And now comes a Samaritan. Those who were listening to Jesus would already have said, when they heard the word Samaritan, that he also would pass by on the other side and would have waited for a fourth figure, because nothing really could be expected of the Samaritan. And yet, Jesus now prolongs the story when he gives us every single detail of the Samaritan's help. And the reason why Jesus gives those details is because those who were listening to him would have needed to hear them. If Jesus had simply said, a Samaritan came by and helped the man, everyone would have said, not possible. Everyone would have said, we cannot believe this. However, Jesus has to tell them every single detail. The Samaritan saw the man, got down from his animal, went to the man, put oil on his wounds, carried the man, took him on his own animal, took him to the innkeeper, and asked the innkeeper to continue to look after him, and whatever extra would be required, he would pay after having made a down payment already. When Jesus gave these details, even though those who listened to him would not have wanted to accept it, they would have had to accept it because of the detailed description of the way in which the Samaritan helped. When Jesus turns the lawyer's question on its head and asks him, who was neighbor to the one who fell among robbers? The lawyer cannot even use the word Samaritan, even though Jesus has used the word Samaritan in the description. And why is the lawyer unable to use the word Samaritan? Because he considered the Samaritan as an outcast. He had stereotyped the Samaritan. He had branded the Samaritan. He had labeled the Samaritan. He had his prejudices about the Samaritan. And this is the reason why he could not even use the word Samaritan, but he had to say the neighbor was the one who showed mercy. So, neighbor in this parable is not primarily the one in need. Neighbor is the one who acted as neighbor. We are living in very, very challenging times. Not only because of the external situation of COVID-19, but also because of so much of right-wing fundamentalism in so many parts of the world. And this right-wing fundamentalism invites us to be prejudiced, invites us to be negative, invites us to look at others with tainted glasses and to label and stereotype them. We stereotype people based on the color of their skin. We stereotype people based on the language they speak. We stereotype people based on the manner in which they worship God. We stereotype every moment and every time. And so the parable of the Good Samaritan is calling us to break our stereotypes. Can I look at an individual as an individual without labeling the person? Can I look at the person as a person without putting labels and stereotyping and prejudices against the person? Someone will ask, when does night end and day begin? And the reply was, when I look into the distance and see in every man a brother, when I look into the distance and see in every woman a sister, and I would add, when I look into the distance and see nature, which I have to use and not abuse, then night has ended and day has begun. Is there an individual? Are there groups whom you have stereotyped and are prejudiced against? Will you, after reading the parable of the Good Samaritan, break every stereotype and be neighbor, very specifically to those whom you have labeled?